Operations with Complex Numbers Part 1. Question 8. Write the expression in the standard form a plus bi. Here we're adding two complex numbers. Since we're adding them, I can just remove the parentheses and then combine like terms. So I have 9 minus 7i plus 8 plus 4i. Now, I is a complex number. It stands for the square root of -1. But instead of writing the square root of -1, we're going to replace that with I. So in order to add these values together, I just need to add my constant terms, which is the 9 plus the 8, and then I'll combine the I terms, or the complex terms, which is the -7i and the positive 4i. So 9 plus 8 is 17, and a -7i plus 4i is a -3i. I can't combine this any further, so my answer is 17 minus 3i. Question 9. Subtract 5i minus 16 minus 9i. Since we're subtracting, we'll need to distribute that negative sign to each term in parentheses. So this becomes 5i minus 16 plus 9i. That's because a negative times a negative gives me a positive. So that's why I have that positive 9i. Next, I'll combine the I terms. So I have 5i plus 9i, which gives me a 14i. And then I have a constant term of -16. And I'll place that before the 14i because the correct form for writing complex numbers is a plus bi. So you always write your I term last. My answer is -16 plus 14i. Question 10. Find the product. 5 minus 7i times 4 minus 8i. Here we have two binomial expressions, and I'm multiplying them together. When I have something that looks like this, I want to use the FOIL method. This is an acronym for first, outer, inner, last. That tells me what terms to multiply in what order. So I'll first multiply the first terms in each parenthesis. So I need to multiply a 5 times 4, which gives me 20. Then the outer terms, which is a 5 times a -8i, which gives me a -40i. Then my inner terms, -7i times 4, which is a -28i. And my last terms, which is a -7i times a -8i. So a negative times a negative is a positive, so I get a positive 56i squared, because I times I is I squared. Now I need to combine like terms. I have a -40i and a -28i. So when I combine those, I get a -68i. Now I have 20 minus 68i plus 56i squared. Now, like we said before, I equals the square root of -1. So I squared equals the square root of -1 squared, which is the same thing as just a negative 1. That's because the exponent of 2 undoes the square root. So I can rewrite the I squared as a negative 1 in this term. So instead of 56I squared, I have 56 times a negative 1. And then I can further simplify this whole expression. So 56 times negative 1 is negative 56. So this becomes a minus 56. And now I can combine like terms by combining the 20 and the negative 56. So 20 minus 56 is a negative 36. So I have a negative 36 minus 68I. And again, my I term always comes last when I write my final answer. And my answer is negative 36 minus 68I.